Hello and welcome to round 3 of the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. We're here at the Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia, and boy, it is good to be back after what has been a very long and extended absence. My name is Tom Brooks, alongside me is Fran Wild, and Fran, let's go straight into the action. Daniel Sharil on pole position, the Malaysian rider on home soil. However, the big talking point going into this race, a wet circuit for these riders to contend with.
Yeah, exactly. The conditions look pretty challenging out there, I think as well, because obviously the temperature in Malaysia, it could dry out pretty quickly. But yeah, it should be an incredible race for Daniel Sharil. Obviously, the honour of being on pole at his home track. Pretty exciting both for him and for the home fans.
Absolutely right, and it is going to be set to be a very interesting race, this one, because of course we've got this man here who's leading the championship on 95 points. He has got a 25-point advantage, so a race win, as a matter of fact, over the next rider, Haruki Noguchi. 95 points he has in that title race so far. He's taken 3 victories in this season, and his worst result was second place at the second race in Qatar, so he really is on incredible form.
Yeah, he's not had a bad run of it, has he? Haruki Noguchi, great start to the year, obviously one of the veteran riders, and yeah, it's been really good form for him, and like you say, he's got a race win in his pocket pretty much, but everything can change really quickly. Obviously these rounds, they have 2 races per weekend, so that's 50 points on the table every time they go out, so it can change pretty quickly, although yeah, it's a good advantage that he's definitely got there.
We just saw a brief glimpse of Bill van Erden, the Australian rider, the first ever Australian to win in the Asia Talent Cup. That was of course back at race 2 at Qatar, so he lines up on the front row. However, the man who's in the head of the second row of the grid, Mario Aji, the Indonesian rider, is looking on great form this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I think those two have so far been the two able to most take that fight to Noguchi at the front. It should be a pretty interesting one, I think, with those guys. And obviously Sepang, it's a very, very different challenge. See how everyone adapts to that. But yeah, I think Aji will have probably expected to be on the front row, usually. That's what he's more been used to. But obviously, you know, if he gets a good start, then he'll be straight back in that mix. And yeah, those two, like I say, they've taken that challenge to Noguchi, and they'll be hoping to do the same now.
We just saw Kopchai Sailu on the middle of the second row of the grid. This man is the rider who lines up alongside him. That's Takeshi Senda on board the number 10 machine. Takeshi Senda, of course, as we said, riding with that number 10, and he is one of the younger riders on the field, so keep an eye out for him on the outside of that second row of the grid. One of the things to mention, though, here, Fran, especially, is the width of this Sepang International Circuit. It's incredibly wide, and of course, these bikes are incredibly narrow and agile, so we should see riders going often 3, potentially 4 abreast into some corners.
Yeah, definitely. With the smaller machines and with such a huge, expansive track like Sepang, it's usually pretty exciting. Especially, obviously, we've got 2 long straights as well for that slipstreaming. You have to see, you know, who's willing to take that risk, who wants to go to the other side of the track and try and break that slipstream. There's a lot of space for these guys to play with. But obviously, also, Sepang is a very, very long track comparatively. It's pretty challenging. And yeah, it's a very different kettle of fish to what they've known so far in Losail and then at Buriram as well in Thailand.
It's going to be very exciting, very unpredictable as well. Our first visit to Sepang here this season in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. You can see the various mechanics just clearing their way from the grid, and we're going to be having nearly 17 riders heading their way down towards that first corner. So of course the riders will be on their own on the grid, then they'll set off on their sighting or their formation lap, if you will, warming up the tyres, warming up the brakes, and of course then getting ready to get the race underway. 13 laps here at the Sepang International Circuit. Of course, all these riders now on wet tyres. It was declared a wet race before the start of this one though, Fran. However, crucially, there's no rain coming down at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is often the challenge of Malaysia, as well as the heat and the track itself, is the weather can be so changeable. And then also, like you say, it's been a wet track, but with the temperature, it dries so quickly. So I think these guys really will be happy to get out on this warm-up lap now and get a first taste of those conditions, see what they make of them, and hopefully get a little bit prepared and ready for when they actually go racing.
Well, they're heading off on their warm-up lap now and heading down towards that first corner. This, of course, in just over a few minutes' time, could be pretty crucial to see how these riders are getting on going down towards that first turn.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, this is the first time they're going to get a taste of that now. even in a couple of minutes once they've made their way around, like I said, it's a long lap. It may have changed even again by that point, but hopefully not too much. So this should give them an idea. And then you can see there with the shadows of those guys in pit lane that the sun is starting to come out here as well. So that's going to be something to think about for them as well.
Absolutely right. Well, this is going up towards turn 4. Doesn't really do it justice on the camera angle here, but there is an incredible elevation change going up to that corner. It goes uphill, and then of course that's where you begin to climb before the circuit begins to drop down again.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, it's a very challenging track. There's a lot of different types of corners. You've got the 2 long straights, the final hairpin, which obviously has had their camber changed as well with the resurfacing works a couple of years ago. So there's now, it's designed to create different lines through that final corner and kind of promote overtaking and different ways to kind of take that corner to be able to get a better exit or maybe cut around the inside. So that's always an interesting place on the track. But yeah, like you say, elevation change. It never really has justice done to it on TV at any track, but Sepang's no different.
It's only when you walk the circuit really that you get an idea of just how steep it can be. So you can see the riders then just making their way. This is going into turn 9, a very interesting part of the lap. Valentino Rossi's favourite overtaking opportunity of the entire MotoGP calendar. And you can guarantee a few of these Asia Talent Cup lads will certainly be trying to find their way up the inside of a few people and potentially even around the outside through there especially as well. So the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup then, the first rung on the ladder really to the road to MotoGP for these riders from Asia and from Australia and Oceania as well. So it really is going to be exciting to see these stars of the future making their way up the ladder. We've seen that over the last couple of years. Just before we get this race underway, Fran, we'll talk very quickly about that. The likes of a few riders making their way up who are now in Moto3. And we could be set to see some of these guys in the likes of Moto3 in the next couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. Like we obviously now we've got the Onchu twins, the reigning champion Dennis Onchu, now in the Moto3 Junior World Championship in the CV in the next rung up. And then, yeah, like riders who now are in Moto3 and really making a name for themselves, you know, like Ayumu Sasaki, Asia Talent Cup champion, then Red Bull Rookies champion, and now he's in Moto3 and really shown some good form. So it's really great for these guys to see that and to see they do have sort of a benchmark for themselves, but also they really do have proof that this is a road to MotoGP and that if they prove themselves and show what they've got, then there is that chance to move through and graduate.
Well, just before we get this race then underway as the riders filter towards the grid, put your money where your mouth is, Fran. Who's your money on for this one?
I'm honestly not sure. But I think with it being Sepang, unless someone can break away early with the 2 long straights, it's going to go down to the wire.
Well, this is going to be very unpredictable. A 13-lapper for the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup for race 1 here in Sepang. So the riders making their way onto the grid. Who is going to get the drag down towards that first corner? Will we see fireworks especially at that first corner as well? It's very, very wide going into there and can leave a lot to be desired. So Daniel Shirel on pole position. Who's going to get the drag down towards that first corner? As we said, is going to be the big question. Wait for those red lights to come on at the top of your screen. And let's get ready then to go racing for race number 1. Great start from the pole position man, but a good start also from Haruki Noguchi alongside and on the outside of the front row. Bill van Erden down towards that first turn. They all filter behind one another as everybody got away pretty equally, but going down towards turn 1, it is Shirel that leads the way, but here comes the number 9 of Noguchi up the inside. He gets the lead away, but he slides down the road. Disaster for Haruki Noguchi, the championship leader. Wow, big drama here for the Japanese rider. So he led the race all for a couple of meters or so, ended up sliding down the road, has fortunately been able to get that bike back up and running, but that is big drama in the opening stages.
Definitely, like we said earlier, it can change very, very quickly in this championship, and that's going to be a serious dent in his points lead if one of those key rivals for the crown can take advantage of that. I'm sure he'll be hitting himself over that and trying to get back in and get as much experience of the track as he can. Oh, it looks like maybe it's not going to be. Well, that's a shame for Noguchi.
Well, we were saying that he might get the bike bump started because, of course, there is a bit of a descent there, which can be quite useful for getting these bikes bump started. However, Noguchi looks like he could even be out of contention for this one with just one corner done for him, unfortunately. Now back out in the lead of the race, it is Shirel that leads the way then from Bill van Erden. So van Erden really with a dream scenario for him more than anything. He was 25 points adrift of Noguchi's championship lead at the moment and has got a real chance to capitalise on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Van Erden now knows that he can make a big gain. Even if he doesn't go on to win this race, he's got a chance to really gain some serious ground in the championship with Noguchi out. So he'll definitely be looking to do that. But then also guys like Aji will be, I'm sure, key contenders because also they have ground to make up. Aji obviously not quite as consistent as Van Erden so far, so a bit of a bigger gap for him to try and hunt down.
Just saw inside the top 10, Menandar and Lucky Hendren-Shah going head-to-head. They were going pretty side by side, and Hendren-Shah, the rider who is ahead then of Menandar at the moment in the opening stage of this race. You can just see them there, the number 13 with the green helmet in the background of your shot. He was the rider who was battling. Now out, though, in the lead of the race. I think it's Van Erden that is leading the way, the number 19. No, might not be. Might be Shirel still, who has the advantage. In fact, no, I apologise. It's Mario Aji. All these riders, of course, running very similar liveries and very similar helmet designs as well. Does make it a little bit tricky to distinguish until we see the front of the motorbikes. But it is Aji then, the Indonesian rider, who we were talking about him starting from the head of that second row of the grid, Fran, leading the way then at the end of lap 1.
Yeah, definitely. As you can see, coming down to the back straight, seemed to have quite a sizable advantage, and then they closed in a little bit at that final corner. But then here there should be chance for them to hunt that gap down, obviously, in the slipstream, and Van Erden looks like he's definitely managed to do that. Obviously, Van Erden as well, a little bit smaller, which is a little bit of an advantage in terms of straight line speed, but you can see they're all going fairly carefully through there. Obviously, because Noguchi crashed out of that lead, they've all seen that happen, and so they'll probably be definitely unwilling to take too many risks around turn 1 at the moment.
Well, all these riders, of course, on wet tyres, on a drying track, does make it a very, very big challenge for them, of course. They've got to contend with the bike moving around more than it would do on a wet circuit even, because, of course, those tyres are just being burnt up by the fact they've got no water to displace and keep that rubber cool. Yeah,
definitely. Like you said, it's definitely an added element to the challenge. I think the main thing they'll be hoping now that they are out on wets, I think we're going to get a replay of the start. Yeah. So if you see Noguchi, not a bad start there from second on the grid and tucked in behind Shariel. Obviously just feeling pretty confident and thinks he's definitely going to head for that whole shot and try and lead the race, but just doesn't quite go as it was supposed to there.
Yeah, you can see the bike squirreling around under the brakes there, and it's really one of the most sort of casual low sides you've ever seen, really.
Yeah,
from
it's a
Noguchi.
real shame for him. It's obviously just a little bit slippy there, almost no drama except for the sliding off. And it's a shame he's not been able to get back in.
Oh, we had another crash. They had a separate crash then, getting back on the bikes. They got the gas up and running, and because we saw him get the bike going, and then...
Indeed, so that solves the mystery of how he's definitely not been able to rejoin then. Shame for him. Obviously, rider up and okay.
And another rider that's not okay is Kopchai Sai Lil. So the Thai rider has gone down coming out of turn 9. Fortunately, he's getting ready to go up on his feet and seems to be relatively unscathed following that one, but still, that's a big, big shame there for Sai Lil. So he unfortunately goes out of contention, and that's a big shame actually, because he qualified inside the top 5 on that second row of the grid and was actually fighting inside that top 5 at the point where he crashed as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a really, really impressive performance in qualifying for Kopchai, and it's a big shame. He'll be hoping for some easier conditions tomorrow, I think, to take advantage of that grid position. So we can see back at the front now, Aji still in the lead, but not able to break away too far. Again, they probably will close in at the end of this straight and then at the into turn 1 as well. Oh, big
moment. That was a big, big moment there for Menandar, who's really made some good ground, actually, up into 3rd place. He was lining up in 10th position on the grid, but you can see just how squirrely he was getting under braking there. This is, though, what happened to Sai Lil, the Thai rider, then going through the left-hander of turn 9. I think we're just going to clip the back end of this one where he high side out, and you can just see, yep, indeed. So he's obviously had some kind of a problem, just probably trying to load the rear a bit too much coming out of turn number 9 there, and going over the bike in a high-siding fashion, and unfortunately crashing out of contention.
Yeah, you could see a little bit of spray still coming off the rear tyre of one of the bikes just ahead of him there, so it's obviously not quite as dry as maybe it looks. But yeah, obviously you can pay quite a heavy price in conditions like this, because they can be, you know, a moment that normally maybe in the dry you'd just be able to collect it can be straight on the floor, unfortunately, when it's mixed and a bit difficult. And we have a change for the lead at the front, so Van Erden are able to take over there.
That's really good stuff for Bill Van Erden. Then let's see if we can piece together how that move was made, and it was going down in towards turn 1. He pulled out of the slipstream, used the inside line, clearly some quite good grip there. Now he's got a bit of heat into the tyres, but still was getting very aggressive there for Bill Van Erden going into that first corner, not leaving any quarter to Mario Aji, way through there. But regardless, Bill van Erden, despite the aggressiveness of the move, does lead the way then with a few laps completed of this race. However, Aji, he's still looking very strong, and that second sector in particular, through turn 7 and then turn 8, those double apex right-handers, he's looking very quick indeed.
Yeah, definitely. You see throughout the latter half of the lap until that final, ooh, a little bit squiggly there.
But he makes his way up the inside, and he does lead the way.
And another moment there on the exit. You need to be just careful there and relax, deep breath, and calm it down, I think, a little bit. Obviously, we've still got 11 laps to go. There's no need to be taking too many risks at this point. As long as you're with those guys that are in that podium battle, you need to wait and strike at the end. But yeah, Aji, like you're saying, he's been strong throughout that middle part of the lap, and especially towards the end until they seem to be able to close in on that back straight and round the final corner into turn 1 as well.
Menandar in third place, but he's going to go up the inside of Van Erden into second position, then down through the right-hander, the penultimate corner on this lap, and he does indeed move up into second place. So the top 3 now really having quite a pronounced gap over the man in third position. That's the number 21, of course, of Daniel Scheril. So the rider who started on pole position, the Malaysian here, on home soil, not being able to contend for the race victory. But again, that number 4 of Menandar still looking squirrely under brakes going into that final turn. Yeah,
definitely. They're all getting a little bit leerier now, I think, in that front trio. But it's not seeming to cost them too much. They're obviously pushing within the limits at the moment. But yeah, it's obviously, you want to maybe have that lead. You want to make sure they can extend that gap to Scheril in fourth, but also there's a lot at stake, and no need yet to be pushing too hard and really taking too many risks. So we'll have to see. Maybe they'll calm it down a little bit. But Scherril's doing really well in fourth, though, obviously, from that home pole position. Really, really great form. And I'm sure he'll be pretty happy to just have them in sight and just be keeping nice pace and keeping it all together with a fairly good gap back to the rider behind him in fifth, which is Hendrian Cherno.
It is indeed, yeah. We just saw the number 4 of Menandar setting the fastest lap last time around, a 2:31, and that was actually the same sort of time that Scheril set for pole position earlier on. Of course, the track a little bit damper than it was earlier on compared to now. Meanwhile, out in front of this race, Aji, big moment though, going through turns 8. I was just about to compliment his riding style, and he drops down into third position, so that does then leave Van Erden and Menandar to lead the way. But he actually did a very good job there, did the Indonesian, to save that, because that could have been a lot nastier.
Yeah, definitely. That was very well collected, right on the edge there. Again, obviously, they need to be pushing. They're in the lead group and fighting for that podium and fighting for the win already, even with 10 laps to go. But they really need to be careful pushing too far past the limit at the moment, because it is still pretty slippy out there, like we can see. But he's caught straight back onto the back of these two. So hopefully now just a little bit calmer, take a deep breath, and I think we'll see a replay now, maybe.
This is the move for, this is Aji going up the inside then of the number 19 of Bill van Erden for the race. And you can see Aji there, all sorts of shapes that bike is making underneath him on the brakes. And this is the moment he has coming out of the corner as well. This was actually a couple of laps ago, but he was looking very, very ragged in the mid stages of that one, trying to find his way past. He did manage to get that way past. However, now we can see it's the roles have been reversed following another moment. So just a couple of little moments there for Aji has kind of put him not on the back foot, we should say, because he is still trying to go up the inside of Menandar here, down in towards the final corner of turn number 15, and he does find his way through, but he is still looking pretty aggressive compared to the others around him, who are just that little bit calmer at the moment.
Yeah, definitely, and just the way they're barreling into that final corner makes me a little bit nervous, because that camber really does drop away from the apex. And now it's obviously, like I said, it's been resurfaced a couple of years ago, and some of the cambers have changed, and that's one of them that really has. But Aji, super confident despite those few wobbles and moments. So, yeah, back in that lead trio again, and although now yet at the back of it, or now moving just through into second, has he? It's, it's good pace he's got, but he does need to be a little bit careful. He's had more than one warning now, 3 or 4 at least in the last 3 or 4 laps. So, there's 9 laps to go. There's no need to take too many risks.
Tell you what, though, these top three that are squabbling away, it is just allowing Shirel to close up on this battle, more so than he has been over the last couple of laps or so. So the pole setter here, Daniel Shirel, could be in contention to try and fight for this race lead before too long. 9 laps remaining, so still plenty of time he's going to have to be able to do so. But if these guys continue squabbling amongst one another, it could get pretty tasty out there in the dice for the victory for this one. So the Asia Talent Cup, of course, the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup, applications open for 2019 now, Fran, as well. So if anybody's watching this, perhaps in the Asia or the Oceania region, and fancies getting themselves involved in the championship for next season, they can do so.
Yeah, you can indeed. You can apply if you think you're the next Noguchi or Van Erder or maybe Super Mario Aji. Yeah, and then there's obviously you apply. We see go through the applications and then decide who's going to get invited to the selection event, which takes place at Sepang ahead of the Malaysian GP. So yeah, if you think you've got what it takes, have a look on www.asiatalentcup.com and you can see all the details there. But yeah, until about mid-August, applications are open for next season.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's riders in Asia. That's from Turkey all the way across to Hong Kong or anywhere in the east, and then all the way down, obviously including Australia and New Zealand. So yeah, definitely check it out and see if you think you've got what it takes to try and take it to these guys next season. Yeah,
registration for that closes on the 12th of August, and the selection event will be taking place on the 30th and 31st of October right here at the Sepang International Circuit. Down in towards turn 15 we go, side by side between Menandar and Aji. Aji up the inside again, quite a few bobbles on that bike, and he is looking very, very loose. He's had a few warnings. Hopefully he doesn't do anything to overstep the mark, but Super Mario still looking on super form here regardless. Down the start-finish straight we go, and you can see how quick these guys are riding with one another as well. Fastest lap times coming in consecutively from Van Erder, from Aji. Anything you can do, I can do better, seems to be the message that they're giving here.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, Aji then eventually got that fastest lap. But you can see, although he seems to be a little bit, in a big moment, and I think that's Menandar, is it, out of that fight at the front?
It is Menandar there, the Indonesian, high-sided his way out of turn 1, so that is a shame for him. Unfortunately, he was going very, very well and had made some good ground up from where he qualified. 10th position he qualified on the grid, so he was fighting in contention for that race victory, but sadly it's not going to be a fight for the race win with 8 laps now to go for Menandar. Back at the front though, it is still a fight for the race lead between Van Erder and for Aji. These two, we haven't really seen their potential over the last couple of rounds or so, and they are really putting a lot of pressure on one another, and this is very, very good to see for them as well. And Van Erder doing a great job of leading the way, but Aji still looking very, very aggressive from behind as well. And Shirel, he was closer over the last couple of laps or so, has just dropped back a little bit, probably got caught up in that instant with Menandar as well.
Yeah, probably just caused him to have to shut off a little bit at that moment from Menandar, like you said, right ahead of him. So even just instinctively, obviously, you're going to lose a little bit because of the way you react to it. So you can see, again, Aji just a little bit squirrely. Is that the word? I think it's a good word.
I think it's a good word. I think we'll go with squirrely. I think that one works. This is what happened then to Menandar going through in towards turn 2. So he's just coming out of turn number 1 here, and you can see him just getting on the gas there. The rear slides his way, then it grips quite violently and high sides him over the bike, and that is a big, big shame there. The main thing is that he's up and okay. Yeah,
up and okay. Obviously, I'm not sure if he'll be able to get back in the race. Not sure how much damage there was to that bike, but big shame for him, having a really, really great ride and right in that podium fight. But you know, sometimes these things happen. Lucky in some ways there is another race tomorrow for him to try and replicate this form without the end result.
Well, we just saw a brief look at the championship standings a few minutes ago, and we saw that, of course, if Bill Van Erder does win this race, then he will be tied on points in the title race between himself and the rider who crashed out, of course, and championship leader Haruki Noguchi. So that is going to make things very, very interesting at the top of the order if it does indeed finish like that. Of course, Mario Aji, now in second position, will be doing everything that he can to try and change that out in front, but he is going to have a very hard task because Van Erder, the Australian, of course, the first ever Australian to win here in the Asia Talent Cup, is doing everything he can to try and change that order.
Yeah, definitely. I think for Van Erder, he's going to have a decision to make come the end of the race, which is whether he wants to take all of the risks to really try and push for that win and close in to the absolute maximum possible today, Or does he want to play it a bit safer, know that he's going to gain a lot of ground on Noguchi regardless of where he finishes, even on the podium, and then let these guys sort of take those risks because they're a little bit further behind in points. But Aji has got some serious pace, and he's shown that already this season. So that could be another one as well to consider, because obviously Van Aerden will know that over the course of the season, once all of it's played out, Aji should be a serious threat for the crown as well with the pace that he's shown. So maybe it is worth taking that risk and dueling him to the line. We'll have to see.
Absolutely right. Well, we just can see as well that Lucky Hendren Shah in 4th position at the moment. Unlucky for some with the number 13 that he rides, but certainly not for Lucky at the moment, because he is doing an absolutely brilliant job up there in 4th place. Qualified down in 8th position on the grid, so has been able to break away. Quite a lonely race, really, more than anything, but he is there in 4th place. He's not too far away from contention, so let's keep an eye out and see how he is going to fare as this race does continue onwards. Still leading the way, though, is the number 7 of Mario Aji, and he is just trying to find a bit of a gap between himself and the number 19, but no way through at the moment for the number 19, of course. So Bill van Erden still there in 2nd position. It's going to get very interesting, this one. And these two very strong in the 2nd and 3rd sector, in particular your two leaders at the moment. They're just able to pull a bit more of an advantage over Shirel in 3rd place.
Yeah, I think Shirel as well, he's going to obviously want to win on home turf, but I think it seems to be that these guys do have a bit of better pace than him, and they can pull away, like you said, through that middle part of the lap. I think for him, home podium, that's a pretty incredible result. So I think maybe don't push too hard, just keep it on the road, keep it nice and calm. Obviously, we've seen to a couple of guys already what the price is for pushing just over that limit on these in these difficult conditions. So I don't know. For me, if I was Shirel, I would maybe keep it a little bit calmer and let them duel it out for the win and take my home podium.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see what happens as the race does continue onwards. Just saw a shot there of Sho Nishimura just going through that final corner. The race lead, though, once again changing as Van Erden now hits the front against Mario Aji. So quite clearly a good exit there from Van Erden out of that final corner. Allowed him to get past Aji going down in towards turn 1. It is an incredibly long straight here, start-finish straight, and of course the back straight as well to that extent. So that does mean that we will see quite a few slipstreaming moves take place.
Yeah, definitely. Van Erden's made a couple of moves into that first corner already. He seems to like that and be able to really make that slipstream work for him on the main straight. I think as well now, with only sort of 6 laps to go, or 5 after this one, I think we maybe might start seeing them trying out that final corner in a few different ways. If they think they're going to be really together coming towards that on the last lap, they'll want to see what line gives them the best exit, whether they're behind the rider in front by the time they come around that corner. Will that mean they can out-drag them to the line? Will it not? Maybe do a few test runs of it. We'll have to see if they do. Or maybe they're just going to have a crazy duel and not think too much about that. We'll have to see.
Well, this is exactly what you said there, Fran. It's going to be one of those sort of experimental stages more than anything in this race, as the riders just try to find the best lines going through those final turns, just in case they have to think about a last lap lunge or a last minute manoeuvre in this race. Further back, though, still getting pretty interesting as well. You can see 4 riders lining astern as they come through turns 5 and then turn 6, and then they're going to go in towards turn 7 and 8, those double apex right-handers. A mixture of lines going on between these riders here as well, and at the moment, from what I can see on the screen, it's the number 18 of Troy Alberto who is leading this one by the looks of things. So that's from 10th position downwards, all the way down then into 14th place at the moment. But these guys doing an absolutely brilliant job in this race. You can see there Troy Alberto. He is indeed in the front of this little scrap. Just behind him is the number 17. That, of course, is Saiwa Sang, the Thai rider. So getting very, very interesting indeed. And you can see there as well, just behind him, that's the number 14. And the number 14 just trying to find his way past. That's Naoki Yamada. Meanwhile, speaking of finding a way past as well, Mario Aji finding his way past Bill van Erden into that race lead at the final turn.
So yeah, obviously putting that move on Van Erden there, and now he'll see he is ahead still, and Van Erden can't catch him back by the time they get to that line, which could be crucial on the final lap. But yeah, that battle for 10th is a good one there. There's 4 of them in that, fairly high octane. But I have to see who takes that in the end. 4 around that final corner could be very interesting come the final lap of the race. But at the moment, this duel at the front seems to be fairly calm. They're just sort of testing each other out. Nothing too crazy or taking too many risks. But I think by this point, it seems like we're going to have a duel to the end of the race, I think, and it looks like Shireel definitely is not going to be able to stay with these guys right to the end.
Well, as you said, though, a good home podium for Shireel. That'll be something for him to smile about if he does indeed finish in that position. 5 laps to go. He hasn't really got any close competition from behind, has the Malaysian rider, so just needs to keep it a bit steady Eddie at the moment and keep calm and keep control. The top 2, though, trying to do anything but that. Aji pulling out an advantage of a few bike lengths in that first sector. Van Erda, though, trying to find a way to respond, and the second and third sectors in particular are where the young Australian does seem to have a bit more of a pace advantage. 15 years old is Bill Van Erda from Douglas in Australia. As we said, second place in the championship going into this round. 70 points he was on. If he finishes in second place, he'll cut that deficit, I should say, down to 5 points. If he finishes and wins the race, then he'll cut that lead down to 0 points. So going into race 2 tomorrow, the top 2 will indeed be tied on points. That is a very tantalising prospect.
Definitely. I'm a little disappointed that he didn't do the full Eurovision of nil points. But exactly. Obviously, Noguchi would technically still be the championship leader due to the victories that he's taken. But yeah, it's a fairly exciting thing for Van Erda, I think, that he won. Well, he probably won't know mathematically. He's probably not thought that through so much in the middle of the race, but he'll know that he can make some serious ground up. So it's quite exciting, I think, after initially it looked like Noguchi maybe could run away with it a little bit, but they really, really have settled into this competition and these bikes, and they've really taken that competition to him, and I think they'll take a lot of heart seeing as well that he's not infallible. He can make a mistake like today. And it's obviously it's sad for him, and he'll want to change that tomorrow. But for those guys, it's a little bit encouraging to see. Like, obviously, Aji's had that situation this season already. It's good to see that, you know, the guy you are trying to beat for that championship isn't completely infallible, always faster than you. You know, it can really change your mental attitude to it, I think. Just
saw that battle for 10th place as well, getting pretty heated at the front of it, because Troy Alberto has been duffed up by Nittipong Sewasung. So the Thai rider then is up into 10th position. Up into the lead of the race, though, goes Van Erda. Again, that bike moving underneath him, but Van Erda seeming to have relative control of that motorcycle at the moment in these latter stages of the race. So just over 3 and a bit laps to go then as they come out of turn number 3. This is a very fast right-hander, and it really does enable you to get a good run going up in towards turn 4. And you can see that as well with Mario Aji. He gets a great exit out of there, and going up in towards turn 4, he's in the slipstream, not quite close enough on this occasion to make a manoeuvre into that corner. But regardless, he's going to know that he's got a bit of an advantage over Van Erda there. And indeed, Van Erda looking over his shoulder, you can see there in the first sector. So maybe he's just aware that he's perhaps not got the same sort of pace as Aji does. Yeah, Aji absolutely nailed that around there. And I think if this had been the last lap, there definitely would have been an attempt. Yeah, it's quite interesting. These guys, obviously, they're stronger at different points on the track, so the gap's like concertinaing up and then out a little bit further. But by the end of it, and yeah, that final corner, they seem a lot closer. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting. But I think as well, it's quite, you know, it's interesting to see when they do attack and when they don't, whether Aji is happy to let Van Erda lead or not. But at the moment, seems to just be sat there having a good look at his competitor. Great race also for Boissy as well. He started in 11th position, did the number 5. He's up inside the top 5 now, so that is a very good race. We just look at Boissy there. He's inside 5th position, you can see. And just behind him is Nishimura and Powie. So those 3 riders a little bit spread out on the field there, but regardless, a great race for Boissy. He's doing a really, really good job to have made such ground and looking pretty commanding there inside the top 5. That will definitely be something for him to smile about in the latter half of this race. And of course, going into the halfway stretch in the season here in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup, it really does get very interesting, not only at the top of the championship, but also in the mid-table as well. Of course, a lot of these guys are very good friends on and off the circuit, so it does make it a little bit interesting, those inter-friend rivalries that they have with one another in the championship. Yeah, definitely. I think as well, like you said, like this is the last race before the summer break.
And for Bouassi, this would be, well, it's the last race weekend, sorry. For Bouassi, if he keeps that 5th, it will be his best result of the season so far. So if he can build on that tomorrow as well, that's really, really good for him to be heading into the break with that kind of result bank, to know that he's made that progress. And obviously then when activity does resume later in the season, it will be at Buriram on home turf for him. So there's quite a lot at stake in terms of the mental game you take into the summer break and how you finished off that first half of the season. But yeah, a lot of these guys are fairly friendly. Obviously, it's kind of like a big travelling circusy kind of vibe in some kind of way. Obviously, these guys, they do obviously race alongside other events such as World Superbike already. They have at Buriram this year and MotoGP in Qatar. But they've also, like this weekend, alongside Malaysian Superbike Championship. So they're their own kind of little band of Asia Talent Cup turning up to race. So it's quite nice as well, and they are always incredibly respectful, great sense of competition, and really good attitudes these guys have got to winning and losing, and always shaking hands and great attitudes all through the grid, I think.
And that respect certainly translates into what happens on track as well. You can see that battle for 10th place, a couple of the riders exchanging positions, but keeping it very calm and very fair. Back at the front, though, it is now Van Erda who's got the advantage back over Mario Aggi then. So will Van Erda be able to try and pull the pin in the latter stages, or will we see Aggi and himself going side by side on that final lap of the race? And this is where it's going to get very, very interesting indeed. So just over 2 and a bit laps to go then. They come through that right-hander. Meanwhile, back in this battle for 10th position, still getting very interesting indeed. At the moment, I think it is still Alberto who is up into 10th place. Indeed, it is in the number 18. Just behind him is that number 17. That, of course, is Sayeng Wasang. So we were just looking at him earlier on, and he was in front for a brief moment, but is doing a good job there in 11th place at the moment, keeping himself quite cleverly latched onto the back of Alberto.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like I said earlier, it could be a little bit interesting with these four going down to the final corner and that kind of reverse camber, and see how they all deal with that. But it's been a pretty close battle, and it's good for these guys as well to have that experience of really racing a little bit closer. And in these conditions, that's a real challenge. So it's impressive stuff and some good progress for these guys. I think they'd be fairly happy with that, and there's some good points up for grabs as well.
One of the important things to mention in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup as well is that, okay, of course there are battles out in front, and a lot of the people are going to be focusing on the battle that's happening here for the race lead between Van Erda and for Mario Aggi, but the battles further down the order, they're incredibly beneficial for these young riders because, of course, they're honing their racecraft at this stage in their career.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is the key thing with a lot of the Road to MotoGP programs. It's not about turning up, immediately being the fastest in the selection event, then getting put on the grid, taking pole, taking every race win, because it's definitely more about, you know, your talent and how you can grow and how you can progress. You don't have to be the fastest guy in your first season. You don't have to be on pole every race or anything like that. What you have to do is have enough talent to be able to continue getting more and more out of it and to really show that progress. So that's as big a prize as any, really, in some ways. You know, it's be pretty rare for someone to come into the Cup and win it in their first year, although a couple of these guys are trying to make that a reality. But, you know, that's the point is progress, racecraft, learning, and showing what you can do and how you can continually keep improving that and pushing the boundaries a bit further. So for those guys, like you say, it's really, really valuable, and in these difficult conditions as well, or as they certainly were at the start of the race, it's really valuable experience to be able to race those guys pretty close, and at a track like this, it's really is a challenge. So it's great for them.
Absolutely. We're just looking at Shirel a few moments ago, and his best finish in the championship so far to date was 4th position at the last round. However, he's on for a podium, so his first step on the rostrum so far this year. Both Van Erda and Aggi have been fighting for race victories throughout the entirety of the season in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. It will be Aggi's first win if he's able to keep himself at the top of the box. There's a couple of riders who would certainly be hoping to be fighting for the race win. However, it's not to be for them on this occasion. They've got to sit behind the television screens and watch these two be duking it out.
Yeah, definitely. It must be pretty painful for Noguchi, having exited the race so early, and now having to watch pretty much his worst nightmare, which is the two guys that are closest to him on points now fighting it out to take 25 of them. But now I can see we're getting onto the last lap pretty soon. So what will we see here? A rehearsal? Not quite.
Thinking about ghosting a move, though, wasn't he, up the inside there, was Mario Aggi. So perhaps just not trying to play his cards too soon and thinking that, just trying that inside line to see if there's the grip there, especially to try and find a way through.
Yeah, definitely. I think now he'll probably know, okay, maybe if I don't make a move there, I can't get ahead of Van Erden by the line, so I have to be ahead before we head to the line. But, you know, obviously it could be interesting that as well, because, like I say, Van Erden's a little bit smaller and maybe can use that slipstream a little bit more efficiently than Aggi's able to, so that could affect it. But now we're on the final lap. Have to see. I think it will go absolutely down to the wire. Let's see what we get before those final fireworks.
Absolutely. Well, through turn 3, this is where we've seen Aggi get a really good exit and down in towards turn number 4, up in towards turn number 4, I should say, as we climb up the elevation of the circuit. Still no moves being made there for Mario Aggi, so it's Van Erden with the advantage. We're going to see a quick replay here going through the first corner. Is this the two race leaders and a slight moment there, perhaps? Not quite seeing what... And it is indeed, yeah. So that's Mario Aggi with a bit of a wobble going out of turn number 2. So that would have caused him to just be a little bit more tense on board that bike at the moment and just perhaps realise that there isn't as much grip out there maybe as they thought he was. So down in towards turn 7, then in towards turn number 8. It's Van Erden with the advantage, but going through here and in towards turn 9 is surely where Aggi would like to try and find a way past. Down in towards turn number 9. Again, he's not quite close enough. He just doesn't seem to have an advantage, but he's going to duck down the inside. He's going to go very late on the brakes, and he's going to find his way through against Van Erden. That's absolutely brilliant from Aggi. Can he hold it into the following right-hander? No, he can't. Van Erden back in front.
Yeah, it was super brave from Van Erden there to sweep straight back around the outside and take that back. So it looks like we're going to definitely get a duel right to the wire with these guys. It seemed like quite a calm first half of this final lap, but now it's really heating up, and obviously you can see that dry line around the track as well, so they're really racing this out on like we said earlier.
Big moment there for Mario Aggi, the Indonesian rider in second place. Could that be all that he's going to have in his locker? Will he be able to try and do something? But a bit of a poor exit out of turn 14 for Bill Van Erden. Surely that's going to allow Aggi to close up. Both of these guys focusing very, very determined to try and take the win. Aggi going for his first, Van Erden going for his second. Down the inside at turn 15. He's very late on the brakes. The bike is bucking and weaving underneath him. Mario Aggi takes the lead at the final corner. Does he manage to hold on to the line? Yes, he does. What a race, what a ride. Mario Aggi takes his first win in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. A brilliant final lap, an absolutely incredible final corner. Bill Van Erden, well, I think he's actually a bit disappointed with second place there.
Yeah, definitely. That's an incredible move. As you can see, Aggi seemingly got a better exit most of the time when he had attempted a similar move throughout the race and knew that that was probably going to pay off, and pay off it did. Impressive stuff, and just about keeping it all on the road there. Yeah, Van Erden obviously pretty disappointed with that, but thumbs up, good sportsmanship. Obviously, he knows he's still gained a lot of ground on Noguchi in the lead. Now we'll see who's won this incredible four-way scrap for 10th.
Yeah, it's getting pretty close. I think it was Alberto that managed to get it right at the line. So that's a great job there for Alberto. Very, very impressive performance, and great also for this man here as well. That was the number 5 of Busari. Yep, we saw him there. He was actually inside the top 6 because he just got overtaken on that last few laps there by Nishimura. So Nishimura having a great final couple of laps there. Some really good pace on this drying Sepang International Circuit. You can see the activity there down in Parc Ferme as well. Mario Aggi, the Indonesian, will be going his way into the winner's slots in Parc Ferme for the first time this year. Is this going to be where his title challenge will start to kick on? Time will tell, certainly, but it is a very big day as well in terms of the championship lead. Of course, Haruki Noguchi, the de facto championship leader going into this weekend, a 25-point advantage he had at the start of race 1. Now, at the end of race 1, it's cut down to just 5 points going into race 2 tomorrow.
Yeah, like we were saying on the grid that, obviously it's an incredible lead to have. It's a race win in your pocket pretty much. But Noguchi obviously has really needed that today. So that mistake is really, really costly. He's seen all of that hard work, not undone, but obviously now the pressure's right back on, and Van Eerde's super, super close in the title fight. So I think, like you're saying, it should be interesting now what happens with Aji and if he can really keep this momentum, because he's had some really, really good form as well, and been on the podium more often than not, except for that really expensive DNF in that second race in Buriram. That's really what dented his points total.
Well, into Parc Ferme then comes the number 7 of Mario Aji. A brilliant performance from the Indonesian rider, just 14 years of age he is. And that was an incredible performance, and he will be absolutely delighted to end up on the box for the first time this season. You can see there the body language from him. You can see the disappointment of the body language of Bill Van Eerde just in the background of your shot there. But those guys, well, quite rightly so, they're all celebrating with one another, and a couple of riders coming down as well just to celebrate with Mario Aji. A great result there for the Indonesian.
Yeah, definitely. They don't call him Super Mario for nothing. So that's I think that's his nickname in his native Indonesia. So yeah, really, really great day for him, obviously taking that first ever Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup win. So yeah, and a job well done, I think. Very much deserved there. Dared to try it, and definitely paid off. And then Shahrial as well, incredible home podium, first podium. It'll be a pretty sweet feeling, I imagine, that one, to have kept it nice and calm and from pole and take that podium.
Well, let's have a look at the final results then after race 1. It is Mario Aji who finishes on the box ahead of Bill Van Eerde and Daniel Shahrial. Then Hendrian Shah, Nishimura, Brusari. Then we've got Paui, Fackrell, and you can see the top 10 just completed there by Troy Alberto from the Philippines. Matsuyama, Seiwasang, then Yamada, the final finisher in that race. Quite a race of attrition there, really. Menandar, Sendra, Sailil, and of course Noguchi also failing to finish that one right at the end. The riders now, of course, making their way to the podium. Bill Van Eerde on the right-hand side of your picture. What's he going to be able to do tomorrow? What will he have in his locker to try and turn things around and take that championship lead going into the summer break?
Yeah, that'll definitely be his goal for race 2 on Sunday now, because he really, really can do that. And not even necessarily with a race win, just needs to beat Noguchi by a reasonable amount, and yeah, definitely has a real chance of going into the summer break as the championship leader, which, like I was saying earlier, that can really have an effect because you've got quite a while off the bike, and to really feel like you're the guy sort of in the driving seat with that momentum can make a big difference to the shape of a season.
Brilliant stuff. Well, Shahrial takes third position in this race. Second place goes the way then of the Australian Bill Van Eerde. Brilliant result there for him. He'll be pleased with that. But this man here, no questions about his performance. A great race and a first victory in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. The Indonesian national anthem plays out over the Sepang International Circuit here at after race 1 of the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup in Malaysia. A brilliant performance from the top 3. What will the form book be like for tomorrow, however? Time will tell. It's going to be very, very unpredictable. And as the top 3 celebrate on the podium, we're going to have a look at the championship standings in just a few moments' time to see where everybody is sitting after that race. But it was unquestionably a thriller.
Yeah, definitely. Really, really good duel that, and a great race down to the wire, as you so often get with the Asia Talent Cup. And yeah, interesting in the Riders' Championship, obviously now Noguchi under a lot more serious threat than when we arrived for this race weekend, and Van Eerde just 5 below, and then Aji also having made up some big ground there.
Absolutely, yeah. Quite a few positions changing, as you can see, up and down the order. But the main talking point, of course, 5 points now the difference between Noguchi and Funoda at the top of the championship. Powie, Hendry and Shah making some ground as well in the lower half, really, of the championship there. And you can see a few riders just losing a few positions further down the order. But a very, very exciting race one here for the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup here at the Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia. So we'll leave you with some highlights then of race one as we look forward to race 2 tomorrow. From myself, Tom Brooks, and from Fran Wild alongside me, we'll see you then.
See you.